remember food at home at the farm, because every day my father, he didn't buy cereal in those days. They started the day with bread and cream and jam. And they all had a slice, whether it was, there were always one or two boys who lived in when I was little at the farm. And everybody had a slice of bread and cream and jam. And then they went out and milked the cows. And when they came in, I think we had fried breakfast. But, you know, that was probably 10 o'clock, and I think we called that lunch. And then at midday or 1 o'clock then, we'd have what we called dinner then. And then at tea time at 6 or whenever, we had tea, which was homemade cake and probably sandwiches, probably fat bacon that was from the pig that was killed, because we used to kill our own pigs on the farm, and they were salted in. I remember rubbing in the salt with my mum, and this was all put in a salter so that they had meat, you know, when these bad winters, particularly 47 was such a shocking winter. I don't think anyone came to the farm for months.
Well, the butcher used to come and kill a pig for us and hang it up and do whatever they do. I can remember them, you know, put it on a special thing. Stretcher and carrying it up. And that morning, Mother would have had to get out very early and
light the furnace.
Light the furnace and boil. They used to do all to
get the hair off the pig.
Yes, but
I remember doing that.
The furnace was used every week. Monday morning was always washing day, and it had to be done then. But this was another day, but it had to be done so they could scrape all the hair off the pig
with the hot water.
You know,
yeah,
just boiling water. Yes.
So then you would have to salt the pig and
yes.
make sure that you kept every last bit.
Oh yes, never wasted a thing.
I don't remember whether I think it was left hanging at the time, and I assume it. My father cut it up, and then there was some of it salted and put in brine and all this sort of thing, you know.
And I can remember washing the intestines.
Yes, I can. Yes.
And we washed it, and we had got a tap the outside of the house, and I can remember this was quite modern then, and we could fix it on, and that would wash it ever so well. You see, yes. With water straight from a tap. And then you see, you boiled up all the poor bits, the head, the trotters. You boiled up all that, and it was minced up, and it was all then put into the skins, and we called them Hogs puddings, homemade sausages, and it was wonderful. So nothing was ever wasted on the farm, and there were always lots of mouths to be fed. I can remember doing all that. That was in the 40s.
Useful skill to have, might come back in one day.
You never know, we never know. I really hope I don't have to do it again. But actually, the Hogs pudding was lovely.
But they also made some of groats, didn't they?
Yeah, but
so it was a mix.
Yes, groats is a
cereal.
A cereal, yes. Yeah, which
some of each, didn't they?
Some people put groats into the Hogs pudding.
Well, they put it in, but they used to do it separate, and when they cook it, sometimes they have some of each, I think, at home.
Oh, did they? I don't remember that, Arthur. But Exmoor was different than Kingsnipton, don't forget. That was a long way apart.
Yeah, as you say.
Back in those days, yes. And I remember a young lad that was working for my dad at the time. He was called Steve Geen, and he was only young, and we had big open fireplaces at the farm, and Steve would bring in what we called back sticks, and they were really almost trunks of trees, and these would then go on the fire, and the fire would stay in nearly all day. They never let it out because that's where they boiled the kettle. and cooked on there, and there was an oven at the side, you know. But my mother soon had an oil stove, and it wasn't very long before she had an Aga, and that was, I think, one of the first Agas around. And I know I'd chat to Amy sometimes, and she'd say to me, "Your mum was always very forward thinking." So I remember having the Aga, and that was fantastic for the farm. There was no more bringing in logs. But here out on the farms, we'd have somebody come from South Molton from, there were two big shops in South Molton at the time, Lethbridge's in South Street and the Beehive, both sold groceries, and we would have them call and they'd take an order on what, I've forgotten the day, but one day in the week, and then later in the week your groceries were delivered. So I remember that happening. And we also had a baker from South Molton, Mr. and Mrs. Skinner, and I do remember him very well with his great big bread basket, and sometimes he'd bring a treat, and there'd be a fancy for Norma. So I used to be delighted.